Today we'll be discussing the National Land and Waters Regional Conservation Partnership as a model for regional collaboration to advance conservation. My name is Marisa Browning-Kamins. I'm the Senior Land Protection and Restoration Associate with the Nashua River Watershed Association, here with Megan.
Hi everyone, Megan Gordon. I'm Land Protection Specialist with Mass Audubon.
And I'm Anna Wilkins. I'm Director of Conservation and Climate with North County Land Trust, based in Leominster.
So Megan and I will be doing the bulk of the presentation just for sake of time, but Anna will jump in to discuss her very important organization within this RCP. So to kick us off, we will be talking about the Nashua Land and Water Regional Conservation Partnership, or RCP, today. But I did want to provide just a little bit of background about the RCP network in general. So this model of collaboration came out of the 90s from the land trust community, who recognized the need to do more collaborative conservation work for landscape scale projects. So these are informal but organized networks of practitioners coming from a diversity of backgrounds. So we're thinking about academic institutions, of course land trusts, state agencies, conservation organizations, and in our case, watershed associations too. So the National Land and Water Regional Conservation Partnership was born out of a recognized need to do more collaborative conservation work within the boundaries of the Nashua River watershed. So that is our defined geographic area. We're very lucky within our watersheds to have a lot of conservation organizations that are serving the watershed through a variety of ways. There was just a need for more collaborative work within that context. So in 2019, North County Land Trust convened a group of partners who were interested in doing this collaborative work to explore the possibility of an RCP model. It took some years to get off the ground, and in 2023 we started meeting as a more formalized RCP. Regular monthly meetings were occurring, and we started to pursue projects together as a partnership. And you can see here some of the members that are part of the RCP. So we have a great group of regional partners from different backgrounds. We're from our respective organizations. We've also got folks from the Trustees of Reservations, Mass DCR, and Mass Department of Fish and Game. And we're always looking to invite more folks who work in this regional context, who focus on the Nashua River watershed, and then we all have local connections that are critical to our work, who are also considered a part of this conservation partnership, and it's all part of the fabric of what we do as a collaborative. So to talk a bit about who we are as an RCP, what we wanted to do today is talk a bit about our respective organizations and the programs we lead within them, because this will help provide some context for how we as individual representatives to the RCP can offer something broader to the partnership. It might be capacity, funding, networks of partners or landowner connections. There's something that we each do that we try and add value to this partnership so that we can advance these landscape scale projects. So since I have the mic, I'll go ahead and get started. As I said, I work for the Nashua River Watershed Association, and I have the privilege of leading the Marine Otter Greenway program. This program is as old as the association itself, essentially, and it all centers around a vision of a contiguous corridor of conserved land winding across the Nashua River watershed. What we're looking to do is protect water quality, wildlife habitat, and recreational access to these waterways. This is all born out of the historic cleanup of the Nashua River in the 50s and 60s, and the recognized need to preserve riparian buffers in perpetuity to preserve all the hard work that had gone into this restoration activity, and there's always more work to be done. So our goal is specifically to support and accelerate the pace of riparian land protection, and what we're looking to do is complete this Nashua River Greenway. So this is a greenway along the main stem, the tributaries, and the headwaters. It's a very ambitious program, but it's critical to the health of the overall watershed. And right now we estimate we're about 53% successful in terms of permanently protected land. And this is all due to the hard work of partners that have been working on this initiative since the Nashua River Watershed Association even became an organization. And so in terms of our process, we can provide staff capacity, technical support, and financial resources to both landowners and conservation partners, all with this goal of breaking down barriers to successful land protection projects in riparian areas. And I think it bears underscoring in the context of this presentation that we are not landowners, we don't hold any interest in land, we really are just here to support our land protection partners in whatever ways they need, and we try and be flexible and diverse in what we can offer in that way. So now I'll hand it over to Megan to talk about her program at Mass Audubon.
I don't think I need to give a huge introduction to Mass Audubon, but I will. We are a statewide organization, one of the largest conservation nonprofits in New England. And one thing that is our priority right now is the 30 by 30 Catalyst Fund. So this is in line with...
Sorry, the mic.
Oh, okay. The Catalyst Fund is aligned with the state and international goals of conserving 20 or 30% of land by 2030. And Massachusetts, the Commonwealth, has set this same goal, and we basically looked at, is this even achievable? And at the current rate, it is not. We won't be able to reach these goals unless we scale up our conservation work. So how we do that is by working together and collaborating. And this is a funding source essentially to build that collaboration and fund these projects. It's been really attractive to the private sector, pulling in money from folks that maybe didn't contribute previously, especially right now with federal money being so scarce. This program has been really helpful to our partners to step in and help them out in closing projects. And so the way we disperse this money is through a parcel-based analysis that prioritizes carbon and biodiversity. And I'll give you a little bit of a glimpse of that in a moment. But that's just an overall primer.
Hi, everybody. I have to share this mic, so that's why we're being buddies today.
Oh, sorry.
I started at North County Land Trust in 2017. We're a regional conservation organization in north central Massachusetts, and we were participating in 3 regional conservation partnerships: the North Quabbin Regional Partnership based out of Mount Grace, the Merrimack Conservation Partnership, which New Hampshire Society for Protection of Forests runs, and also with the Quabbin to Cardigan, which overlaps with the North Quabbin Regional Landscape Partnership. But even in that participation, what we found was that the whole eastern part of our territory was really lacking in that structure and coordination. And when we did bring our partners together to ask, what can we do to help increase this pace of conservation, they all said, well, there's no way for us to efficiently and effectively come together. So that's where the idea of starting this RCP came from. What North County Land Trust brings as a partner is the local connections and the local focus. So again, each of our little towns, it's their own little kingdoms, and you have to know the people in your town, and you have to know what those priorities are, and you have to know how to work with both the landowners and the municipalities. So that's what we bring to the table, is sort of we have a much broader definition of what is attractive to us in terms of conservation. And so we can play that role of facilitating and connecting the money and the greenway to Nashua River. So, and that's me.
Awesome, thanks, Anna. So that's a bit of detail into our respective programs and how we fit into this broader RCP vision. We all have something to share and contribute to the network, whether it be resources, capacity, etc. But really what we have an advantage of doing is we have a strong shared foundation of mutual priorities. So when we think about a collaborative project, we sit down in a room together in person once a month. We look at the map of the watershed, which Megan will talk about in more detail. and we think about our shared priorities, which in our case, there are many. There's a lot of intersection in what we're all trying to do for our respective organizations. Our goals overlap really nicely, and that allows us to make strategic and efficient decisions about priority projects. So we can look at the Catalyst Fund's prioritization map. We can see what parcels might be a priority. We can see what overlaps with the greenway. Is it within 300 feet of that riparian buffer that I can help support? Does Anna have the local connections to actually move this deal forward and work with the landowner? Does it overlap with everyone? And in many cases, that answer is yes. We're looking to protect riparian land as a collective. We're looking to improve the climate resilience of our team. Is it? Okay. Of our communities. And so that helps us as a collaborative know that we can pool our resources, still meet our own missions, and also meet the mission of the Regional Conservation Partnership. So to describe more how we actually sit down and work together on these projects, Megan's going to talk about some of the spatial tools that she's developed to actually help organize our workflow and work together in a very clear and efficient manner.
Yeah. Okay, then you gotta stand next to me.
Right, I forgot.
Yeah, that was a good intro, thank you. So yeah, we, like Marisa said, it was really easy to start, like what is the low-hanging fruit? How do we get into this together? How do we find the overlap? And both of our organizations have prioritization models, so we overlap them. You can see in green here is the greenway. It's a 300-foot buffer along the major tributaries to the Nashua River watershed. And then in the like red to yellow scale is the Catalyst Fund, which is the parcel-based prioritization model. And so this area in Lancaster really jumped out because it's at the confluence of the Wiki and the Nashua River. So it's a huge priority for the greenway. And then all these properties jumped out for Catalyst Fund. And we just started talking to people. All these purple dots are potential projects that we are working on and developing those relationships with the landowner. And a little bit more about this tool. Basically, we can look at, like, print out a map and stand around it and point at things, but there's something to be said about having like an interactive map that you can click on and look at all the tools. And so I went digging, trying to find something that we could all log into and use. And so Esri has ArcGIS Online products, and this one is called the Reporter Instant Application. And basically one person needs to have an ArcGIS login, and then everyone else can just log into it without a sign-in, which was helpful for our group. I was able to create it, and then the team was able to log in. And basically, it's a way that we keep track of our projects. Like Marisa alluded to, when we come together every month, we sit down with this, and we zoom around the map, we click on projects. You can see on the side here, we have different classifications of projects. So active projects that we're like, doing deals with the landowner. Land protection opportunities, because maybe they came to a landowner outreach workshop and they are interested. Land protection priorities, you can see the Lancaster group really jumps out there. And outreach targets, because we think they're a priority, but we haven't made connections yet. And so we made this like schema that you can see this data table. And one thing that was really helpful that I want to point out from the schema was identifying project lead on there, because then, we're all not reaching out to the same landowners. We know who has the connection, and I know Marisa's like moving this project along, and we're going to talk about it every month. And I can step in with funding when it's necessary. We can help. Anna has connections to other folks that we can pull in, or funders. So this has been a really great communication tool internally and externally. So like I said, the map has become the focal point of our discussions, and it's been really good for attracting funders to our watershed vision. They can see visually the scale and the scope of how many projects we are doing or want to do. And that has been really helpful in drawing the money in. And a watershed, you all know this, but like a larger regional partnership is so much more, the story is so much more advanced and so much more touching to folks. And the watershed vision is really helpful when bringing folks in. And I know that not everyone can have Esri products and can have ArcGIS Online. So we wanted to give some alternatives. So if you wanted to create a shared mapping tool, you could at home. So Google Earth and Google Maps, you guys could make a shared group on Google Maps and put points on a map. You don't have the same like schema and everything, but you can put comments, and that's a really easy way. QGIS is free and a great tool. It's a little bit of a learning curve to learn it, but a great tool. I don't know a ton about Gaia, but I know that that is another alternative that folks can use as well. And if one person in your group has access to ArcGIS Online or Esri products, they can create this reporter tool and everyone can log in. Another resource is your local regional planning agency. They love helping, especially regional groups, with mapping needs and bringing resources to the table. So definitely reach out to them. They're a really good and underused resource. And if you have the funds, nonprofit licenses for Esri products are very generous. It's $100 a year. So if you can swing it, it might be worth it to like bring these tools to your group. Okay, I'll hand it back to. Yeah, great. So we've talked about how we work together. We share these priorities. We work together to identify parcels that advance all our missions, trying to stitch together this landscape scale initiative. And we want to talk now about why we think this model works and maybe why it will work for you too. So we have this strong foundation for effective collaboration in that we share this common goal of advancing land protection within the Nashua River watershed specifically. And within that, we've got those shared conservation values that help us hone in on these parcels. So those are those clear priorities, values, and intersections that we've talked about really help make this group an efficient partnership. But we also have complementary strengths and weaknesses. No one organization can do it alone. That's why we have so many, and that's also why it's so important to do it together. So for example, my association is a good partner when it comes to riparian land protection. But if there's an upland or terrestrial parcel that's a high priority, everyone in the group knows that I might have to take a step back. Maybe that's a better fit for the trustees. We're all sitting at the table together so we can make those decisions really quickly. We can identify project leads or supporting partners, and we can develop an action plan to move forward, knowing that it aligns with the people working on the project. And if it's not a good fit, we know that, and we can work around that. We can fill in the gaps as needed and make sure that all the projects we're doing really are a good fit for the other partners. And that all comes to that clear communication. We're using that mapping tool to track these conversations. Even if someone's not in the room that day, they can check and see who might be a part of the project because of those strengths or weaknesses. Really leading into that is transparency in the resources we offer and the capacity. I think everyone in this room understands that we all have limited capacity. We try very hard to just pursue priority projects for that reason. But we know that there will be times where our workflow, it ebbs or wanes. We can contribute something to one project and not to another. So that's all part of the conversation, what we can or can't contribute to the partnership or the project at that time. And we all just work together to deal with that as it comes. But I think it's probably clear that I'm underscoring these regular and specific meetings really make that possible. We do try and meet in person. We acknowledge that everyone has the ability or capacity to do that, but it's been pretty instrumental for us to actually sit around the table, develop these strong working relationships, getting to know each other, how we work, what our organization can or can't do at a given time, and how to strategically move forward, especially when there are complications to a project, which there always are. It just allows us to brainstorm more actively together. We do offer hybrid meetings, of course, but this has just been a really great way to ensure accountability, to maintain momentum on these shared projects. Every month we know we've got this check-in, so maybe there's a deliverable. We know we'll report out at that time. Or if we're stuck, we know there's a built-in time with our partners to work through that together. And that has been really helpful for all of us, and it helped us become very efficient partners together. We pool those resources and those connections to make these projects happen. Maybe Mass Audubon can help with an appraisal. North County can manage the landowner relations or hold the land itself. NRWA can come in with some other survey funding. We make it happen. We really try break down those barriers together, and because we know we're stronger together.
And all this centers around trust. We have developed that really great working relationship because we're together so regularly. We've got these monthly meetings. We've gotten to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we trust each other to get it done. Land protection is a sensitive thing. We're dealing with people making really big decisions. We all care very passionately about what we do. So this trust element is really important as we build this rapport, this working relationship as a collaborative on this regional scale. So now I'll hand it off to Megan to help wrap this up.
Yeah, so we wanted to make sure that we were kind of having you all walk away with something tangible that you could work on if you wanted to create your own regional partnership. And I think the questions that we want you to think about are, what in your organization, what are your roadblocks? Like, what is stopping you from achieving the full potential of your goals? What is stopping you? And there are partners out there that have those as strengths and you can lean on. What do you need out of the partnership? What are you going in asking for? Like Marisa has alluded to or said it specifically, we've been really honest with each other and hey, this is what I have to give and this is what I need in return, and having that real transparency with each other. And the clarity is really helpful going into a partnership. What is missing from your current workflow? Do you need GIS capacity? Do you need the funding? Are you running into, I don't have the partnerships on the ground? Those are all things that someone else has, and bringing those people to the table is really important. And don't just go into the partnership thinking, this is what I need, this is what I want to get out of it. What can you bring to the table? Why are you there? Why do you have a seat at this table? What are you providing? Because no one wants to go to a monthly meeting where they feel like they're not getting anything out of it and they're just giving. So show up in a real way for your partners and make those commitments, and they will do it in turn back for you. And with that, actually, one more thing. Think outside the box too about what partners should be there. It isn't just land trusts, right? NRWA doesn't hold land, is not a land trust, but is an essential partner in our partnership. Think about municipalities. Think about pulling in MVP money and other sources. There's plenty of different folks out there. Water districts. Are you working with your local water district? They hold land. So yeah, just be creative and come with something prepared to give while you ask for something in return. And that will make you a better partner. And with that, thank you very much. This is our contact information, and we'll turn it over to the other group. Thanks. I'm going to sit over here. I'm not sitting up there.
You want your computer? Okay. Hi, I'm Leah Farr. I'm the restoration coordinator for the Berkshire Clean Cold and Connected Partnership, which is led by the Housatonic Valley Association.
And I am Erin Rodgers. I'm the program manager for Trout Unlimited in Vermont and Massachusetts.
So today I just wanted to talk about how obviously we're all connected to land, and we want the generations after us to try to be as connected as they can be. And so we really have to look at generational connectivity. And part of that is the land conservation and how it defines the structure of the landscape. But the watershed restoration can restore the function of our rivers and streams. So the Berkshire Clean Cold and Connected Partnership was established in 2022 through DER's Restoration Partnership Program. And together we brought 8 different organizations across 34 municipal lines in the Housatonic, Hoosick, and Farmington watersheds. The partnership began to envision a region that's ecologically resilient to climate change and a community that is interconnected to the health and well-being of the watershed. To achieve this, we had to increase the pace and scale of ecological restoration in Berkshire County by building the capacity of local municipalities and partner organizations that collaboratively restore degraded aquatic ecosystems and strengthen climate resilience. Our restoration across the watersheds and organization aligns planning, funding, and implementation so municipalities and nonprofit partners can advance and deliver priority restoration projects. We have received around $1.3 million in DER implementation funding to date, and we have helped leverage $5 million in additional state, federal, municipal, and private funding to prioritize partnership projects. Beyond funding, this collaboration has built shared technical and professional capacity, strengthened municipal and nonprofit partners across the region, and is accelerating restoration at scale. The regional framework identified priorities to translate measurable, on-the-ground results into stronger relationships with the communities that we serve. Today, the partnership is advancing 84 active and potential projects throughout our region, including 4 dam removals, 9 culvert replacements, 6 riparian restoration projects, and a few multiple green infrastructure installations. A key driver of this has been our road stream crossing management plans, or RSCMPs as we call them. We have advanced 11 of those for municipalities, and there's potentially 7 in early planning stages. These plans inventory municipal culverts and prioritize crossings based on flood risk, aquatic connectivity, and crossing conditions, creating a strategic pipeline of culvert replacement projects grounded in data and resilience planning. We help to identify undersized and failing culverts like the top left picture, implementing a pathway for replacement. The top right picture is the same location now with a stream smart design crossing, which helps improve connectivity and flood resilience. Alongside implementation, partners are investing in community outreach and education, working with municipal staff, conservation commissions, and residents to build understanding around stream health, flood resilience, and habitat connectivity. Through this coordinated approach, restoration projects are moving from concept to construction with local support. The largest project to date, the Concopat Bank Restoration Project in New Marlborough, reflects Trout Unlimited's leadership in delivering complex, nature-based restoration strengthened by regional support, aligned funding, and trusted partnerships. The picture of the Concopat riverbank on the bottom left shows a failing bank with heavy sediment deposits, and in the background, a road it had been encroaching upon. Trout Unlimited led the multi-year-long project with multiple partners and designed a nature-based solution as represented in the bottom right picture. It has engineered log jams, a tiered floodplain that reconnects, a tiered system that helps reconnect the floodplain to prevent further bank degradation and improve the function of the stream system along that reach. This is where connectivity becomes visible on the landscape and better understood within our communities. If we're asking how land and water leaders can connect more effectively, what does the landscape look like at a larger scale? Zooming out, we look at HVA's Follow the Forest campaign, a landscape scale initiative connecting forests from the Hudson Highlands in New York to Canada. This campaign identifies intact core forest habitats with 250 acres or more, and the wildlife linkages that connect them across the corridor. These terrestrial and wetland core areas are intact, well-connected places that, if protected, support a diversity of fish and wildlife and plant communities, along with the ecosystems they depend upon. Core areas often contain resilient examples of major ecosystem types in the Northeast, serving as anchors for long-term ecological health. The linkages are designed to enable movement of animals and plants between core areas and across the landscape. It maps the ecological backbone of the region. Zooming back in, we can see how the Housatonic, Hoosick, and Farmington watersheds in Berkshire County landscape are heavily forested. That forested landscape forms the foundation of our ecological resilience. Through the Follow the Forest framework, we can see how those forest functions as the ecological backbone of our region, the core forest blocks and the linkages that allow plants and animals to move across the landscape. It's not just a biodiversity map. Protected forests and conservation lands act as natural water filters, removing pollutants before they reach streams, lakes, and reservoirs. Terrestrial, wetland core areas protect headwaters, regulate stream temperatures, and stabilize soil while reducing flood impacts downstream. That's what Forest Connectivity Campaign is, also a watershed protection strategy. And that's where our opportunity lies. If the Follow the Forest can define landscape structure with the cores and the linkages, then watershed restoration partnership like Berkshire Clean, and Connected can help strengthen the hydrologic function of our streams, allowing them to flow naturally, transport sediment, create habitat, and reconnect with their floodplains. That's how land conservation and watershed restoration can move together. If we want generational connectivity, alignment has to be intentional as we build resilience for the future. It begins with shared maps. As we follow the forest, we can see the power of watershed scale collaboration. Forests and conserved lands provide multiple watershed benefits, helping to filter pollutants, protect headwaters, and maintain clean, cold water that supports healthy stream and forest ecosystems. When we overlay core forests, wildlife linkages, culvert inventories, and restoration priorities, we begin to see opportunities, places where land and stream restoration reinforce one another instead of operating separately. Then come our shared priorities. Regional coordination allows municipalities and nonprofit partners to move beyond individual projects and focus on places that matter most, where habitat, flood resilience, and community benefits intersect with our aquatic and terrestrial connectivity. When we identify projects like the degraded dam in the top right picture, we need to expand our vision. Rather than advancing projects in isolation, partners can prioritize actions that reconnect fragmented stream reaches, replace undersized culverts, and remove degraded dams that block aquatic and terrestrial passage. We also need to work to protect conservation lands that close those identified wildlife linkage gaps in project locations. I realize this is actually fun. Bringing this integrated perspective to municipalities helps communities plan more strategically, understanding how culvert upgrades, dam removals, land conservation, and stream restoration together improve habitat, reduce flood risk, and strengthen local resilience. A barrier removal like a culvert replacement upstream can reconnect miles of stream habitat. The bottom left photo shows a perched culvert where the outlet drops and prevents aquatic species from migrating any further upstream. Replacing an undersized culvert like this one with a stream-smart design like the one beside it would restore the natural function of the stream and increase terrestrial connectivity. If we combine our resources and protect the adjacent forest land, we can secure the terrestrial corridor that surrounds it. Shared funding allows those aligned priorities to move from plan to implementation, leveraging state, federal, municipal, land trusts, and private investments to support projects that strengthen both aquatic and terrestrial connectivity, while helping communities better understand how to protect forests and restore streams together. The top left photo shows a Stream Smart table demonstration, which engages community members to recreate stream conditions and various flow conditions, and begin to understand how restoration projects like culvert replacements can positively impact resiliency in their community. So imagine if we can include forest linkages with that demonstration, how impactful our message would be. When maps, priorities, and funding move together, individual projects begin to function as a larger network. And the result is a more climate resilient landscape, one where forests filter water, streams flow freely, wildlife moves across corridors, and communities experience reduced flood risk. Alignment isn't just coordination, it's connectivity at scale. Land conservation defines landscape structure. Watershed restoration strengthens the ecological function flowing through it. When we align maps, priorities, and funding, we stop working in parallel and start building a resilience together across landscapes, across watersheds, across institutions, and that's how we connect generational connectivity. Do you want to talk about the Conco-Pot?
Sure.
Okay. Erin's going to talk about the Conco-Pot.
Here we can go back a couple slides.
I actually have your story map.
Oh, thank you. All right. Excuse me. So I am Erin Rodgers again with Trout Unlimited, and kind of my experience with being one of the partners within the Berkshire Clean Cold Connected Partnership, which is one of the DER funded programs, has really been able to help us expand our work in a really meaningful way, and to connect with more partners to leverage our abilities against other folks as well, to really expand a lot of capacity throughout the county. So I kind of, to give a little bit of a background on TU, I feel like a lot of people know Trout Unlimited through a lot of our chapter organizations, which are volunteer run, largely focus on angling and outreach and volunteer programs. And then a little less well known is typically the TU National staff. So that we are not very many of us across New England. We're very decentralized. We cover large areas. But we are the actual, paid staff that goes out and works with landowners, works with different funding sources to get these projects on the ground. One of the limiting factors of that, though, is that all of our projects are entirely grant funded. So all of my staff time, all of my employees' staff time is through project-driven grants, whether that is federal, whether that is state, whether that is private and foundation. But it can be very hard to break into a new area where we don't have active grants going that can support new developments and new project types. So the BCCC, the partnership that we have through DER, was really instrumental in moving from just having a single project within Berkshire County to having now over half a dozen in different states of development, and really being able to expand and to leverage out a lot of our works. We have a pretty broad suite of restoration practices that are kind of within our wheelhouse. We do everything from culvert replacements to dam removals to in-stream habitat work, nature-based solutions of a wide variety. We have some in-house engineering services that we then partner out with consulting engineers for that kind of 100% design. We do all of our own permitting. We have a lot of skills within our staff at TU, which is wonderful. And we also recognize that not a lot of other organizations, especially small organizations, have that same capacity or have that same skill set. And even though they might want to learn, they might want to move into doing these things, but starting off on a project type that they've never done before, wanting to do a dam removal, even a small one, can seem really intimidating if you don't have somebody who has that experience working with you. So collaboratively, as this larger BCCC group, we are able to share that skill set with other organizations like HVA, who has a lot of skill and capacity all on their own, with smaller organizations like the Berkshire Environmental Action Team, smaller watershed associations that are also still maybe only one or two staff people and otherwise largely volunteer run. So it kind of gives other organizations a place to have that reference point. And it's not just a one-way street either. It's very much that two-way interaction as well, where HVA has much more of a localized presence. The watershed associations have that really localized presence. They have that volunteer base, have a really strong connection to their watersheds and to their lands and their landowners. At which point we can partner together to, as the last group was saying, really leverage each other's strengths and weaknesses to expand our work, to expand the overall project suite that we can offer folks. There are so many times when we'll go out with a landowner who has gotten in touch with one group, but maybe 3 or 4 of us from different organizations will go to the same site visit and be able to either offer a larger suite of projects or be able to really tailor down to, well, this is now out of one group's scope of work, but it's totally one of our other group's scope of work. And we can really work with landowners to really address what their needs are. They don't always know what their needs are. They can point to this bank and say, it's failing and it's, taking away my field. And that's a really problematic issue. But we can also look at that same kind of larger parcel and say, yes, we can address this bank, but let's also talk about a riparian planting. Let's also talk about this other thing. Let's also talk about your driveway, which has a really undersized culvert on it. We can do a lot of things, and it doesn't have to be just one organization doing it. We can divide and conquer as well, which has been really, really helpful. So the kind of, what Leah had brought up for me here is a bit of a story map that we had put together based on the bank restoration project that TU had completed through the BCC partnership, which was great. It provided a lot of seed money towards really getting this out the door. The town of New Marlborough had reached out to TU probably 5 or more years ago. It was before the pandemic, so it was definitely more than 5 years ago. And when they had reached out to me, I was like, well, this is absolutely a problem. It's, a roughly 10-foot deep bank. It's losing sometimes 10, 12 horizontal feet every time there's a spring thaw or a big storm, and moving closer and closer to that road. Which, obviously that's a pretty well-traveled road. It was a major issue for the town that they didn't know how to address and didn't necessarily have the money to bring to a private consultant. But me stepping into that project, it was a very slow start, because trying to find those funds to develop a project like that, at that time, 6 years ago, nature-based solutions wasn't really a thing yet. Or at least not very common, and nobody was really putting in the funding for it quite yet. So we had some slow fits and starts, and then the BCCC came and kind of formed around us, and we got that seed money to really take off on it. And once we had that BCCC support through DER, really it was, a couple of years, 2 years maybe, when we could actually get some really good implementation on the ground, when we could finish designs, when we could move through the permitting and make a really significant difference to the town. So
You want me to?
Leah's been scrolling through things. I don't know, do we want to just go to?
You want to go to the construction?
Sure.
Or?
Yeah. And so nature-based solutions, again, being, I think that's one of our Vermont sites.
Yeah.
For comparison. Excuse me. So one of course, the tough things about new project types and doing kind of new and different things is working through that permitting process, which is complex, especially when you don't necessarily fit into the boxes that they would like you to fit into. So that was a process, and one of the great things that the partnership could offer was that support through the permitting as well, to be able to leverage other groups' contacts with state senators or other folks within larger organizations and regulating agencies, that we could have different conversations than we might have been able to have if we were doing this entirely on our own. And so we finally got to construction. Hooray!
Yeah.
And that was a long and bit of an arduous process, and nothing ever goes right. Nothing is ever, just smooth and easy. So again, there were a lot of even unknown occurrences that happened during the construction that, again, we were able to use that partnership to help us move through. So during construction, I don't know if you want to move back to that last.
I can, yeah.
So during construction, we arrive one morning, and this is, taking place last summer. It was a pretty dry year. Water was pretty low. But we arrive one morning, and the water levels have risen 8 inches, and we don't know why. So we reach out to our partners, like, what is happening upstream? What is going on? And found out that a town upstream had taken out a beaver dam that was getting in the way of some of their other town things, but they didn't necessarily let us know that this was happening. So it was a bit of a surprise, but as a group, we could collectively find out what was happening, how long it was going to continue happening, and then we could respond in a way that was more appropriate to finding a solution with the contractor to get things done. And luckily it didn't just create too much of a disturbance. It was cleared up within a day or two, but it was still one of those surprise moments that it's really nice to have other organizational support when you have a surprise like that. And then we were able to continue using basically large boulders and large trees, often with connected root wads, to create these really impressive engineered log jams. And so this was probably the third iteration in various sets of designs over the last few years. That really, we didn't want to just soft armor the bank. That only kind of pushes the problem off in similar ways that hard bank armoring does. It's just using a slightly different material. So really looking at the site conditions, at the flow conditions that we know were regularly occurring because of the dams that are controlled upstream. And so the log jams really were structured and situated within that stream so that they move out into that waterway just enough to push the velocity of the river off of that bank, to push it back towards the center of the river. And so it's not necessarily an armoring device. It is a way that we can just disrupt that flow a little bit to really slow down the water, to kind of create a lot of really good in-stream roughness that is doing the majority of work for us. So the fact that we did use boulders, but all of those boulders are buried. They're kind of like a fail-safe behind everything in case something goes wrong, because we can plan as best we can for the known flood scenarios that we have experienced so far, but we can't necessarily plan for what we don't know is going to come in 5-10 years, and we want this kind of work to last. It's important to the landowner, it's important to the town for sure, and we want to make sure that while we are protecting that road infrastructure with this kind of project, we still want the river to be able to act like a river. We want the water to go up and down. We want it to have that fluid dynamic that it really should have. The other real nice benefit of this, especially with the root wads and the log work there, is that this is an area listed for endangered reptile species that really love this kind of woody habitat. So it's really a lot of multiple benefits for one project site. So we're protecting the road infrastructure, we're kind of helping the river be able to continue to act as much like a river as possible, while also building habitat for native species like brook trout, being trout unlimited, and a lot of the other native rare, endangered, threatened species that are also inhabiting this river. We can kind of scroll through, and so that's mostly end stage. There was a little bit more groundwork, but this just kind of shows, this is from the upstream to the downstream sweeping through there, so that you have not just a vertical bank anymore, but a really nice kind of basin shape that should be able to fill more gradually when those floodwaters come up, to help kind of spread things out, slow things down with that additional roughness. And so the next kind of step in all of this, which again is great with the partnerships that we have, is that we're going to be doing a series of plantings over top of this. So both on those soil wraps and behind, so that we can really maximize as much of the riparian reconnection as we can, and that riparian growth and shading. And the best way to do that is absolutely engaging with volunteers. So it's not just being able to engage with the Trout Unlimited volunteer network, but now we can also reach out to the HVA volunteer network, to the Watersheds Associations networks. We have some really strong volunteer partnerships in our region that we can leverage through a lot of different people coming together and putting in the work. So that is TU's experience with the DER Partnerships Program. It's been incredibly helpful to bring some really good resources or some really good funding to protect and help the resources that are already in Berkshire County.
You have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. You had referenced the dam removal. Is that something that was part of the project, or?
That was not part of this project. That was in a separate location on the county.
Oh, okay. Is there any effort going on with mitigation efforts like beaver deceivers or versus dam destruction?
For a dam removal?
Well,
She means the beaver dam
to
removal.
mitigate
Oh.
the issues
Oh.
associated with dams, like road flooding and things, and agricultural flooding and things like that. I assume there would be some level of advocacy for mitigation, like beaver deceivers.
Mhm.
The beavers get some money out of the deal. And
I am all for getting beavers more money out of this deal. Yeah, and I mean, it's actually impressive. So I work across Vermont and Massachusetts, and honestly, Berkshire County has one of the highest densities of beaver and human interactions that I have seen across my entire region. Which has been really heartening. I actually use Berkshire County as an example when I go talk to people about beaver-human conflicts in Vermont, because why not leverage competition with another state to really get people to buy into beaver conservation? So I think you might be referencing the town upstream that had taken out the beaver dam.
Yeah.
So as to my understanding, the beavers had built a dam over top of the town's dam, and it was blocking the outlet of the dam, and they needed to do maintenance on it. So they had to take out a portion of the beaver dam so that they could do their regularly scheduled maintenance on the town portion of the dam. Otherwise, yes, I 100% advocate for beaver-human coexistence as much as possible.
No effort to remove the dam altogether, though.
That's entirely up to the town and or landowners that we approach about dam removals, and this is one that is, the outlet of Lake Garfield, which is a very well-loved town resource. So there is, at this point, no interest whatsoever of taking out the Lake Garfield Dam. Otherwise, we do a lot of outreach around dams and dam removal, and there are a lot of interested landowners. They are kind of increasing all the time, which is great. And I don't know if that's because we're kind of getting the word out more or because people are kind of recognizing the effects of dams on the overall kind of waterscape. But yes, we're definitely, and that's been a huge part of the project development that we have been doing, is the number of dams that we have been collectively brought in to look at and address.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, before we move into questions, another round of applause for our speakers. I'll just give one more reminder when we're getting set up to fill out the evaluations. We have QR codes up here and throughout the rest of the day. And folks up here, just be mindful of the
I don't care.
microphones, the lab, and the...
Okay.
This mic, I guess.
Yeah, that mic.
Yeah, get up there. Technology. Hi, any questions? Yes.
Do you need us to speak into a mic for the video?
Oh, that might be good, actually. You go, Marisa.
Yeah.
You're the...
Thank you. So I just have a question. I realize that this is focused on regional partnerships, but sometimes there needs to be a partnership within a town's border. One thing that we are facing in our town is when culvert replacement needs to happen, sometimes our Conservation Commission is put into the position of not being able to right size it, either for water flow or for wildlife crossings, because if they did that, that would increase water flow to a downstream neighbor. So do you have any suggestions about how to work not only across towns, but within a town with neighbors?
I feel like you guys are culvert people.
I mean, I can give my experience a little bit, is like if towns want to work together, that's ideal, because then maybe you can identify another culvert downstream in a different town that they can kind of help that. But also with a culvert replacement, there is a lot of analysis on how the flow will change if it is replaced with a stream smart size culvert, so to speak. And that takes into a lot of account what's upstream, what's downstream, what happens in a 10-year, 50-year, 100-year flood, and what that would look like if it's replaced.
And I'd also say that's really the important part of having those culvert replacement priority plans. Leah totally had another acronym for that. The partnership very much works with the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. which has been incredibly helpful for us to, again, leverage additional funds and different resources. But also, I feel like we have brought them more projects and more funding opportunities than they may know what to do with sometimes. But they have been key in helping to prioritize and figure out absolutely what order culverts in a whole stream section can or should be replaced in, so that if replacing this upstream culvert is going to really negatively impact that downstream one, maybe that downstream one needs to be replaced first. It might have been a different priority overall, but if that impact is shown and really well demonstrated through that hydraulic analysis, then that kind of can shift that overall picture as to just the overall plan within the town.
Hi, so I have two questions. The first is Trout Unlimited, what's your most common funding source?
Ooh. It totally varies, and it often varies both between project area and between where we are in a project. So there are some grants that are far more willing to fund salary time, and others that are very much targeted towards all of our construction work. So in Massachusetts right now, we have really strong state partnerships for state grants, both through sub-awards with partners through partnership programs or through sub-awards through MVPs and things like that. A lot of our dam removal work, we've been able to target things like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service National Fish Passage Funds. That's been really key. That's a construction heavy kind of funding right there. And then we are also lucky to currently have a partnership with a foundation that has helped to supplement a lot of that development work, that very much is happy to fund staff time but does not want to fund construction. So it's always a very much piecemeal, how do we get things together to work together?
Did you have a follow-up?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I was just wondering if the Mass Audubon Catalyst Fund priority mapping is available online.
It's not publicly available, but if you reach out to me or another,
It's not publicly available because it is a parcel-based analysis, so we don't want landowners to feel weird about it or feel like we're targeting them. But if you reach out to me or one of the other land protection specialists, we can, and like tell us what parcel you're looking at or a collection of parcels, we can tell you if it ranks or not, and then work together to either develop a project or I can refer you to another group that may have funding. Yeah, so that's kind of the pipeline to work with the Catalyst Fund.
It seems like both partnerships have at least one overarching grant or coordination that has funding that helps you. And I'm curious, I'd love to hear about both of your experiences with getting to be part of that, the RCP around for your work, and then the Mass Wildlife Restoration Partnership. Our organization is actually interested in applying, so I'm particularly interested in hearing what the application was like, how it started, and how it helps you work.
do you guys want to start? Yeah, I'll start.
We don't have funding for RCP. It started really as just a coalition of folks. We are in the process, we are officially an RCP now, which maybe Anna can talk to a little bit. But yeah, we are still using our time from our organizations. We're not getting funded to be part of the group. Maybe in the future, but do you want to quickly talk about RCP?
I think during the presentation, when they were talking about us, how valuable it is for our projects to be part of an RCP for funding, it was really project specific for us to talk about, funding individual projects and finding grants for that. I actually have, so right now I'm kind of serving as coordinator, I guess, for the RCP, and that's just through, my staff time. I am always looking for funding for it, but it is really difficult to find staff time for this RCP, or funding for staff time to coordinate the RCP. So if anybody has any hints.
You got money?
I mean, I'll second that. We're always looking for funding, but the DER partnership program, which is the Division of Ecological Restoration, has been really like a key piece to bringing everybody together. I wasn't there at the beginning, but just coming in and seeing like all of our groups working together for like a shared vision, and really right now we're at a stage where we're reaching out to each other and collaborating more effectively on new projects all the time, and we can really provide assistance to a municipality. A municipality might email me, and then I go, I'm not sure, let me get back with you, and then I can really reach out to my connections with BCCC, and that has been very valuable and continues to be. But the DER partnership program is like a tiered step right now. So there is like ways that we're going to have to grow and change and identify funding without that in the next 5 to 10 years kind of thing as well.
Any other questions?
I wish we had some foundations here in the audience.
Yeah.
If there are no other questions, we'll thank our speakers again.